Hey guys, Alessio, hope you're well. In this video, we're going to talk about this important signal on the chart of Bitcoin. Many of you have been saying to me, hey Alessio, what do you think about this MACD crossover signal on the monthly chart of Bitcoin? What could it mean? Is it a potentially negative signal, or maybe it means nothing? And also guys, in this video, I want to talk to you about the secret to finding a market top. Could be any market you want, Bitcoin, stock markets, gold. How do you identify when a market is potentially topped? All right guys, join me. Alright guys, welcome back. So we have a lot to talk about in this video, and it's a special video because many of you have been asking me this question a lot in these in these videos. Hey Alessio, what do you think about this chart of Bitcoin on the monthly chart, and what do you think about the MACD crossover on Bitcoin? So I'll do my best guys to answer what this potentially means. Could it be a negative sign? Is it a bearish sign? Or maybe it means nothing. Maybe it's nothing at all. So I'll talk to you more about it in this video. By the way, before we talk about Bitcoin, as I'm sure you can probably guess where I am, I'm actually with Houman here in Tehran, in central Tehran. This is actually a street known as Valley Asr Street. It's quite a famous street, by the way, and as you can see here in front of me, let me just show you a little bit the other side. A lot of folks here in Iran, in Tehran, are getting ready for the New Year celebrations, the Nowruz, the first day of spring celebration. As I'm sure you probably know from my previous video, I've already mentioned that in Persia, in Iran, oops, sorry guys. In Persia, in Iran, they celebrate the first day of spring, March 20th, the spring equinox as the new year. So it's a big thing here. A lot of folks here are getting ready in the celebratory mood, in a party mood, I guess you want to call it that. All right, guys, so let's talk about Bitcoin. As I'm sure you probably want to talk about this chart here. So really what I want to get to in this video is the question many have been asking me is, hey Alessio, what do you think about this monthly chart, this monthly signal on Bitcoin? And that's the MACD signal, the negative crossover. She wants to follow me? There's a lady, there's a girl here who's following me. You got some cash you can give her? Yes. Yeah. So as I was saying, a lot of you have been saying to me, hey Alessio, can you please make a video and talk about this MACD crossover, this negative crossover on the monthly charts of Bitcoin? You've been saying to me, surely this has to be an important signal. Could it mean a negative signal or a bearish signal for Bitcoin? So what is the significance? What is the importance of this signal, the MACD crossover on the monthly chart? Some of you have been saying to me, well, surely this has to be a sign, a negative sign of a potential bear market for Bitcoin. So can I talk about it in my video? So I'll do my best, guys, to explain this in my video and also talk to you more about the secret of finding a potential bear market top or a long-term market top for any market. It could be Bitcoin, stock markets, gold, whatever you like. All right, guys, let's talk about this. So before I come to the whole MACD crossover thing, so here's the first thing I want to say. It is true that in the past, whenever there's been a MACD crossover, a negative crossover on the monthly chart of Bitcoin, this has usually been a negative sign for Bitcoin in the past. For example, in the year 2018, yeah, we did have a MACD crossover, a negative crossover on the monthly chart of Bitcoin, and yeah, that was a sign of a medium-term bear market for Bitcoin. In other words, after that negative crossover occurred on Bitcoin, it is true that Bitcoin continued a bear market and downtrend for several more months. So it was not a good sign for Bitcoin in 2018 when that MACD crossover on the monthly chart occurred. By the way, the same thing is true in 2014. In 2014, with a negative crossover on the MACD, on the monthly chart of Bitcoin. And yeah, Bitcoin also continued its downtrend and bear market for several more months after that MACD negative crossover occurred on the monthly chart of Bitcoin, again in 2014. So what I'm saying is, in the past, MACD crossovers on the monthly chart of Bitcoin have not been good signs for Bitcoin. It has resulted in the continuation of a bear market or downtrend for Bitcoin. In other words, Bitcoin has underperformed and continued to drop lower in the next several months after the MACD crossover. So the big question is this, guys. Now that we have a MACD crossover on the monthly chart of Bitcoin, could this potentially be the same kind of negative signal that we had back in 2014 and 2018, which resulted in a continuation of bear market, or indeed the start of a major medium-term bear market or downtrend for Bitcoin? Let me just get past this shop here. So let's get started. Here's the thing. When I was talking with Charlie, my good friend Charlie recently, he said something quite interesting. He said it's entirely possible that a bear market or downtrend could start with any signal. So is it possible this particular MACD negative crossover on Bitcoin is a negative sign for Bitcoin? Yeah, it's possible. Anything is possible. Anything can happen, right? But the question is it likely? Is it probable? And in my view, guys, I don't believe it is. No, I'm actually going to argue in this video that it's not likely that just because you have a MACD crossover on the monthly chart of Bitcoin that therefore it's highly likely or probable that we're starting or continuing a major bear market. So I'm going to argue in this video that actually no, it's not highly likely. And actually this MACD negative crossover on the chart of Bitcoin is probably not a big deal because there are actually much more important things to consider when you're trying to identify a major market top. So guys, the truth is there are actually much more important signals to look out for when you're trying to identify a potential market top or a continuation of a bear market. So what are these three important signals to look out for? All right guys, let's talk about that. All right guys, let's start with number 3, the third most important signal to look out for. Believe it or not, this actually is a contrarian signal. Now, a contrarian signal or contrary signal is where basically it means the opposite of what we actually see in the signal itself. By the way, here's the thing. I want to ask Houman here, my good friend. Houman, what do you think is the most important contrary signal there is out there? One of the most important contrarian signals we should watch out for when we're doing analysis?
Emotion.
Emotion, very good. Yes, Houman's right. Emotion or sentiment. So the sentiment of the crowd, the emotions of the herd. All right, guys, so what is the emotions of the herd? Well, here's the thing, guys. This is a very important contra signal. Usually around the market top, as we're approaching a market top, or usually when we're expecting a bear market continuation, what typically happens is we're seeing extreme bullish sentiment. The sentiment becomes extremely over bullish, or at least there is some greed out there. There's some greed, bullish sentiment out there. And here's the thing, guys, right now on Bitcoin, especially recently as I'm making this video right now, there's a lot of fear on Bitcoin. Here it is. Courtesy of alternative.me, we can see the sentiment readings on Bitcoin are not bullish. There's not much greed out there, it's the opposite. We're seeing extreme fear. So we're seeing sentiment being quite bearish and pessimistic on Bitcoin at the moment right now. So guys, let me ask you a question. How likely is it that we're approaching a major market top or a continuation of a bear market or even a start of a bear market when the sentiment readings on Bitcoin right now are quite, pessimistic and indeed negative? So again, as Houman said, emotion or sentiment is quite important, and therefore right now we can see the emotion is extreme fear right now for Bitcoin. So given the fact we're seeing extreme fear right now on Bitcoin, I mean, how likely is it that we're reaching a major market top or a continuation of a bear market? I would say it's not likely at all. I would argue that's probably a positive signal. So in order for us to see a contrary signal for a potential major market top or a continuation of a bear market or even the start of a bear market, what I would first like to see is to see the opposite of what we're seeing right now on Bitcoin. I would like to see greed or some kind of bullishness, over bullishness on Bitcoin, which is not right now present for the crypto. Okay, let's go to signal or point number 2. So here's the thing, guys. Again, going back to the MACD on the monthly chart. Many of you said, hey, Alessio, come on. We've got a MACD negative crossover on the monthly chart of Bitcoin. Surely that has to be a negative sign or bearish sign for Bitcoin. Well, it's possible. Yes, again, as Charlie says, anything is possible. Could be. It could be another repetition of 2018 or 2014 for Bitcoin. I personally am doubtful. I don't think so. I don't think this necessarily means what everybody thinks it means, that necessarily this is the start or continuation of a bear market for Bitcoin. In fact, it's far more common on the monthly chart to see something else before a major negative signal, or indeed before a major market top or the start or continuation of a bear market. The much more common signal you see on the monthly chart of indeed most markets is, actually I'm going to ask Houman here. Houman, what do you think is the most common type of signal you might see on the monthly chart of a market before a major market top?
Divergence.
Good.
Yes.
Divergence, guys. Houman's right. So, by the way, let me ask you, Houman, what kind of divergence? What type?
Negative divergence.
Absolutely right, guys. Yeah, Houman's absolutely right. He's been doing his reading on the chart analysis, so well done to you, man. Yes, negative divergence, guys. Now, of course, it's true. You do see negative divergences on the weekly chart and the daily chart. But again, if you want to find some kind of a long-term, again, negative signal, I would say, again, look at the monthly chart of Bitcoin to see if there are any negative divergences, for example, on the MACD. Now, again, guys, it is true that in the past for Bitcoin in 2018 and 2014, we did not see monthly chart divergences, negative divergences, before a major market top or indeed a major downtrend. That's true, but I think, again, I'm going to argue that it's much more common to see that. For example, we see it all the time in the stock market. So here's an example for you in 2007 on the S&P. Notice on the monthly chart of the S&P in 2007, first of all, notice we had a MACD crossover sometime before that, sometime before 2007. I think it was in 2005, 2006. And notice, despite the MACD crossover, the S&P continued to rally higher. It continued to go higher. Now notice in 2007, before the major bear market crash started, notice you had some divergence, a negative divergence. Notice what the market did. the S&P made a higher high, so S&P rallied, made a higher high, but did the MACD make a higher high? No, it did not. The MACD actually was kind of flat. As a matter of fact, the MACD made a slightly lower high. So there you have a negative divergence on the monthly chart of the S&P before a major market top and the start of a downtrend. Let me give you one more example. This is in 2000. Before the major dot-com crash on the S&P, notice what happened there. You had a very clear negative divergence on the monthly chart of the S&P before the major market crash started. Okay, guys? So again, as Houman said here, and is quite right, typically before a major market top or the start of a downtrend or continuation of a downtrend or a continuation of a bear market, again, you typically see divergences, negative divergences on the higher time frames. For example, the monthly chart. So guys, let me ask you, do we have negative divergence on the monthly chart of Bitcoin on the MACD, for example? No, we don't. I mean, we probably have some divergences on the RSI, but as far as the MACD is concerned, we don't at the moment have a negative divergence on the monthly chart of Bitcoin at the present moment. And personally, in my view, that's the kind of thing I'd be waiting for before I can say the market is likely topped. All right, guys, the final point number one, I would say, in this video. One of the most important things to look out for before the start of a major downtrend or the start of a bear market or the continuation of a bear market is, well, here's the thing. Divergence is not enough. All right, guys, so it doesn't matter if you see a negative divergence on the charts. It's not enough. And it doesn't matter if you have extreme in sentiment or extreme in emotion, okay? What you also need is break. Actually, I'm going to ask Houman. Break of what?
Break of support.
Good.
Yes.
Break of support, break of market structure, or break of support, as Houman said. So breaking market structure, break of support is much more important than anything else, okay? So despite the fact that we said, look, emotion, extreme in emotion, or bullishness, or again, some kind of greed is important. And also we mentioned the MACD crossover, and also mentioned the negative divergences. Yeah, all that's good. But look, the one thing you really need is a break of support, breaking market structure. All right, guys? So that needs to happen before the odds, before the probabilities can increase that a potential downtrend has likely began. So as you can see here, back in 2018, before you see a major continuation of a bear market, we had a break of structure at near the 6,000 level on Bitcoin. That's really important. I would say the same thing about previous times in major bear markets, like in the stock market. We had a break of structure, break of support before there was a high probability, indeed, of a potential market top or indeed the beginning or the continuation of a bear market. All right, guys, so break of support, breaking market structure is very important. I would say is top of my list more than anything else. So going to the chart of Bitcoin, I mean, let me ask you this, guys. Would you say that right now we've broken market structure or breaking support on Bitcoin? Well, I would say no, not really. We have not broken the February or January lows, okay? February, January lows near the 34K to 33K levels. We have not broken that level. We have not broken even the 2021 lows at near 30K. So we're above support. We're above the 30K support. We're above the 33, 34K, the January, February lows on Bitcoin support levels. Those support levels have not been broken yet. I mean, they may get broken at some point in the future. We shall see. But I personally think that it's unlikely. I think it's less likely. But we shall see. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe those levels may get broken in the next several months. Personally, I think it's less likely. We shall see. So again, guys, breaking that support, in my view, is much more important, a much more important signal before we can say there's a high probability of a potential market top or indeed a start or a continuation of a bear market. All right, guys, that has not yet happened. Again, I repeat, that has not yet happened. All right, guys, so in this video, we covered a lot of points here, very important points. In fact, 3 very important points we've covered here in this video about the secret to identifying potential market tops or the start or continuation of a bear market. Again, as I've argued, I don't think we're seeing any of those signs for Bitcoin right now. So I personally don't think there's a high probability of a potential long-term or a medium-term bear market for Bitcoin at the present moment. All right, guys, because none of those signals, none of those signs I mentioned in this video have occurred yet on the chart of Bitcoin. Maybe they'll occur at some point in the future, maybe next year, maybe at the end of this year, so we'll watch out for them, and we'll cover that in the future video update. By the way, guys, before I finish this video, make sure you check out our next video with me and Houman here on Houman's channel. So come and join me on Hoomzi, Houman's channel. I'll put the link for you there, guys. So I'll put the link for you in the description, but come and join us. Do a video here for you guys with Houman. Houman and I are going to explore Tehran together and see what we can find, some interesting things we can find here in Tehran around about the Persian New Year. All right, guys? So thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video update. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Cheers.